Good afternoon, and welcome everyone to the Tooth Bagay Lecture Series. Good afternoon, and thank you very much for joining us at the Tooth Bagay Lecture Series. Hello, I see Miss Valentine, Miss Brathwaite, Crystal Austin. I see Kara Holder. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Good afternoon. I see Mrs. Crystal Bunting. Good afternoon. Welcome. Good afternoon. Welcome, Miss Valerie Wilson. Good afternoon, Miss Taylor. How are you doing? Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much for joining us for the Toot Bagay Lecture Series hosted by the National Trust of Trinidad and Tobago. Good afternoon and welcome. Today we will be speaking about the Coup Tapes project, and we're going to start in just a minute once everyone has arrived into the meeting. So good afternoon and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Good afternoon, Miss Cambridge. Good afternoon, Jabari Brathwaite. Good afternoon, Nesyaman. Good afternoon, Zara. You'll put in the chat, please feel free to put in the chat where you're tuning in from, and we'll be sure to mention it later. So just a few house announcements before we start. As you all know, the National Trust is a membership-based organization, and we encourage everyone to become a member of the National Trust if you are not already. Please be sure that you become a member of the National Trust, and I will put the link in the chat shortly if you are not already, because I know many of the people on the call are, of course, our very loyal members. And good afternoon and welcome to all of you. Good afternoon from Lara, Maine. Good afternoon from Piaco. Good afternoon from Diego Martin. Good afternoon from Atlanta. Hello, Kenny from Atlanta. Good afternoon, Alicia Oxley at Trini in the Bahamas. Just a Trini in the Bahamas. Thank you for joining us all the way from the Bahamas. Good afternoon, Fatima, tuning in from Virginia. Good afternoon from Coral Cascade. Good afternoon from London, United Kingdom. Thank you so much for joining us. Good afternoon from across the office. Hello, James. Good afternoon from Turks and Caicos. Good afternoon from Bloomington, Indiana. Hello, Kimberly. Thank you so much for joining us. So I've given everyone a few minutes to hop onto the call, and now I have the great pleasure and honor of introducing my dear colleague, Mr. Joseph Bertrand. Joseph Bertrand is the Education and Outreach Officer at the National Trust of Trinidad and Tobago, and he holds a Bachelor of Arts in Carnival Studies and a postgrad diploma in Art and Cultural Enterprise Management. As a student of history, Joseph has a passion for Trinidad and Tobago, and he has done extensive work in researching the watershed moment that is the 1990 attempted coup. He is the producer for the Lost Tapes 1990 Attempted Coup audio documentary, which comprises over 20 years of work in digitizing, contextualizing, scripting, and producing the audio documentary. Joseph has been so gracious to grace us with his presence this evening, and he's been so gracious to share his platform with me. The Toot Bagay Lecture Series is Joseph's brainchild, and I thank him very much for trusting me to host all of you this afternoon. So, Joseph, please take it away.
Thank you very much, Ty, and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining me and joining the National Trust of Trinidad and Tobago here for this very special, timely Toot Bagay lecture where we will be exploring the Coup Tapes project. Just a little bit of information though. Please keep your mics on mute and also please be careful in terms of writing on the screen. And I'm seeing two things happening there. So please be careful. We'd like everyone to be part of the conversation that we would have around the Coup Tapes project. So my friends, good afternoon, and thank you all very much for joining as we delve into the Coup Tapes project. Now, frequently asked questions whenever I speak about this particular project. Who is responsible? How was this recorded and why? All right, so I'm going to answer them one time. Who? The Coup tapes, firstly, are recordings of Radio 610 during the 1990 attempted coup. We need to contextualize that the only TV station, TTT, was overthrown. And in order for the public to get information, we have the radio. The staff at Radio 610, they had to defend their space in order to continue to broadcast and give information to the people of Trinidad and Tobago and the wider world. So my mother, Charmaine Bertrand, she recorded the radio as it was happening from Friday all the way to Emancipation Day, the 1st of August. While I was maybe about 3 months old as a baby, right? I was born in April, and the attempted coup, the 27th of July, 1990. Birmingham, and she decided to record the radio as it was happening. How? Through these exact cassettes. When things were happening, just press record, and she kept the tapes. And when she realized that I had an interest in history, an interest in Trinidad and Tobago's history in particular, she then passed them on to me, and thus began the journey, the 20-year journey of the Coup Tapes project. And why? The why is also very important. My mother, Charmaine, decided to record the broadcast in order to give my dad good and proper information, right? He worked at the airport at the time, and he was on shift. The breakout happened, and then we have state of emergency. We have information about the curfew and so on. So in order for her to give him real-time information, just hit record, and then this became the Coup Tapes project. So those are the 3 major questions that I get when we talk about the Coup Tapes project. The social context. We need to wrap our minds also around what happened. The attempted coup played out against an arena of civil and social unrest, right? Political unrest, economic depression, removal of COLA, and several job loss. The COLA is the cost of living allowance, and this was removed along with the introduction of VAT. So your salary just cut, and then you have to pay more. All of these various things are happening in and around this space in Trinidad and Tobago, right? So understanding the social context, then we have day 1 of the attempted coup. The police headquarters was bombed. TTT, the lone TV station, was stormed, and several of the workers at TTT were held hostage. The Red House, the seat of Parliament, was also stormed in this coordinated attack on the democracy of Trinidad and Tobago. Another attack was on NBS Radio 610. This photograph is a picture of what the building used to look like. And all that you would hear in terms of these recordings were recorded and played live on air. So let us take a listen to Gerard Lampau as he broadcast news for us at that time.
At about 6 p.m. yesterday evening, gunshots and explosions were heard in the area of Abercrombie Street and St. Vincent Street in Port of Spain. From the newsroom at the top of the NBS building, smoke could be seen rising from the police headquarters on St. Vincent Street. Police headquarters later erupted in flames and ammunition from the armory ricocheted off surrounding buildings. Shortly after this, an armed party gained access to NBS radio and set the first and second floors of the station on fire. This fire was put out by the NBS staff, who then secured the premises and continued to broadcast from master control at Abercrombie Street. At about 7 p.m., TTT carried an official broadcast from Imam Abu Bakr in which the Imam stated that the Jamaat al-Muslimin had staged a coup and taken control over the government of Trinidad and Tobago. Sporadic gunfire was heard in Port of Spain throughout the night as buildings in the capital, including the police headquarters, were left to burn. NBS Radio has been on the air since last evening, and through live telephone interviews, we have kept the nation abreast of the unfolding events.
So, my friends, we hear Gerard Lampau giving the news broadcasts. Now, you would hear how measured he is in giving this information. Now, let's look at the picture critically. Radio 610, just to the right of the building, we have a little photograph in terms of its angle, little picture of the old fire station in Port of Spain. And guess what is right next to the old fire station? The Red House, right next to Woodford Square. So they were broadcasting from the epicenter of the 6-day siege. So these men and women who operated NBS Radio 610 during that 6-day period, they broadcast from ground zero, literally. Okay? And this is a picture. I was walking down Abercrombie Street. This would be 2018. And I've been listening to the hours of tapes that my mom would have made, got them digitized, etc., and listening to them. And I'm passing, and I saw this sign: "Rest in peace, NBS Radio, Heroes of 1990," with this graffiti across this now car park. And doing further research, I realized that this is the space where the NBS Radio 610 building was. So around 2018, took this photograph and thus sparked the idea to do something with these hours of recordings. So these are the men and women who would have operated during the 1990 attempted coup, operating in Radio 610. Gerard Lampau, Hamilton Clement, Dennis McComey, John James, Tony Lee, Adrian Boudin, Kelly Bakradi, Elizabeth Solomon Amor, all right, a journalist. So hats off to the team and all those who would have worked with them to bring information and bring a sense of calm throughout the 6-day period. In listening to the hours of tapes, I felt a sense of calm and I felt a sense of peace, even though understanding that all of this was happening in the capital. And putting that into perspective, if they would have been like, oh my gosh, things are happening in Port of Spain, we don't know what's going on, then the remainder of the public would have had the same sense of feeling and it could have played out differently. All right, so hats off to the team handling the professionalism. Now, this is a picture of Port of Spain. We have these annotations. We have Abercrombie Street, and there is Radio 610, very close to the police headquarters, which was bombed, and the Red House. So again, just understanding how close these men and women were to the epicenter. Now, the idea is, why radio, right? Yes, it was the only form of mass communication at the time, but let's think about it. The power of radio is not that it speaks to the millions, but that it speaks intimately and privately to each one of those millions. So in understanding this quote, I wondered, what would I have wanted to hear while at home in Arima, away from Port of Spain? What would I have wanted to hear? What would you have wanted to hear? What did you hear? And how would that then affect my feeling towards what is happening? How do I then maneuver myself with all of the information, the curfew orders, etc., the state of emergency? So how I answered this, I wanted messages of calm. I wanted the news and, of course, emergency broadcast. And this is exactly what they did. So here we have some small examples of these items.
By 10 o'clock, we'll keep you informed and entertained as the situation develops in Port of Spain. Right now, we just advise you just to keep calm, stay indoors, and just relax. Lift your mind radio on 610 AM, 98.9 FM, and 100 FM stereo.
The news.
Things in central Trinidad, particularly the Caparo, Flanagan, and Torchwood area, that people are indoors since last night. There's a sense of uncertainty. Yesterday afternoon, people went to buy, lots of basic commodities like candles and bread and biscuits and things like that. There's really confusion in these parts of the country, and we hope that those that are concerned and involved in this exercise would sort it out as soon as possible, that the country shall return to peace and tranquility. I'd also like to mention that the medical clinic that was supposed to be held this evening at my residence has been cancelled until further notice.
That was 6 Sense correspondent from Central Trinidad, Mr. Paras Ramata.
Thank you very much.
So there's news and, of course, emergency broadcast.
That is, there's a call out for all auxiliary personnel of the Northern Division to please report to the Wrights and Road headquarters as soon as possible. I'll repeat that. Fire services, all auxiliary personnel of the Northern Division, please report to Wrights and Road headquarters as soon as possible.
So we have those three examples: messages of calm, need you to keep calm, stay indoors, news, things that are happening around, and of course, the emergency broadcast. But Radio 610 also went above and beyond in terms of being able to communicate. Now, they provided a platform for official statements, facilitated communication between the Red House, the Jamaat al-Muslimin, and the army and those powers that be who are on the outside trying to negotiate, etc. It was quite interesting to understand that those who were in the hostage situations would have been listening to the radio to get their own news and to understand what is happening outside. And Radio 610 was also used to facilitate that type of communication and messages of unity. So let us hear some short examples of an example of these official statements.
This is Clive Pantin, Minister of Education. On behalf of my cabinet colleagues, Ministers Atwell, Myers, Rambachan, Basdeo, Tiwari, and Charles, all of whom are not, I repeat, not under arrest, I want to assure you all that contrary to statements made by Abu Bakr, the government of Trinidad and Tobago has not fallen. The above-mentioned cabinet ministers are in command and are at present taking the necessary decisions to ensure the return to peace and the well-being of all our citizens. As it is, 2 ministers and all civilians have already been released. We urge all of you to remain indoors, I repeat, to remain indoors, so that the protective services can effectively carry out their duties. May God bless you all, and listen out on this station for further details.
Right, so we have an example of the platform for official statements. Now, let's hear an example of how they facilitated the communications.
Making a special announcement for the benefit of the members of the Muslimin at TTT and the members of staff of the Trinidad and Tobago Television Organization. The ambulance is very close to the building but cannot get access to the front of the building due to obstacles in its path, including several cars. We hope you have received this message. Thank you.
So we have several examples of these where messages would have been sent via the radio, and again, this was broadcast live. So those who listening would have heard and thus made decisions based on what information would have come through. It's quite interesting to understand and contextualize that. And when we're looking at messages of unity, this is an example of such.
This is Archbishop Anthony Pantin. I wish to say a prayer for the nation and for all of you who, like myself, are involved as citizens of this wonderful country which is going through such a harrowing time at this moment. Almighty and Eternal Father, on behalf of all your children here in this country of Trinidad and Tobago, I implore you to help us in this moment of crisis and to get those concerned to come to an agreement that will be suitable in our eyes, in your eyes, and for the general needs of our people. I pray in a special way for those who are hostages, who have been locked up, separated from their loved ones, and enduring all kinds of inconveniences and hardships, especially mental torture over these last few days. I ask you to bless them and to strengthen them, to help them not to weaken under any circumstances, but to keep on trusting in you and in your divine providence. Father in heaven, bless us all, because we belong to one nation, and although we have committed many sins and done many wrong things in the past, we really want to strive together to be one people with one destiny, and to unite ourselves in our hopes and aspirations for a better Trinidad and Tobago. Help us, O Father, in this hour of need. We pray with all our heart and soul to you, asking you to forgive us whatever our transgressions may have been, and to keep us together in unity of faith and love, so that this crisis may soon be past, and that we may come together to work together to show true love.
Nicely. And now, so let us understand that those were the various banners or topics that the Radio 610 would have tried to then use to keep the country informed and also keep the country calm. Yep. So let us take a little deep dive now into the coup tapes themselves, as they then tell us about what happened during the 6-day period. So we're looking at the 28th of July, 1990, where the acting president, Joseph Emmanuel Carter, came on air to read or to proclaim the state of emergency. Let's listen.
Of such a nature and on so extensive a scale as to be likely to endanger the public safety or to deprive the community or any substantial portion of the community of supplies or services essential to life, and B, that a state of emergency exists in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, given under my hand and the seal of the President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago at the office of the President, St. Anne's, this 28th day of July 1990, signed J. Eman Carter, President, Acting President.
So here we have the acting president, Joseph Emmanuel Carter, proclaiming the state of emergency as his right as the acting president or president of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. The thing is, the last time we had a state of emergency, 1990, before that, was 1970. So do we really grasp what that means, the state of emergency? So Radio 610, remember speaking to the millions, but intimately thought to do things like this.
Good morning, everyone. We just want to announce the same situation that was announced by the acting president of Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Emmanuel Carter, a few minutes ago, in his right as president of Trinidad and Tobago, and according to the Constitution, subsection 2, section 8, he has announced a state of emergency. Now, we don't quite know if you all understand exactly what that means. It means that all certain rights are prohibited until, inter alia, the period that he has designated a state of emergency has come to a close. So we advise you to stay indoors. There's absolutely no reason for you to be outside today. Stay indoors, listen to the radio, try and make yourselves as comfortable as possible, stay as calm as possible, and please, under no circumstances must you come out into the streets, venture around any corners due to curiosity or any other reason that you might think important. Stay indoors, be calm, and we will keep you informed on NBS Radio 610 as the situation develops.
So, my friends, listening to things like this, these interjections, where we have the official statements and then a layman's explanation, it would help in keeping me calm, keeping the country calm, keeping the country informed as well. So these are things, again, that played out on air, live on air. Another order, the curfew order.
90 order made by the Commissioner of Police under Regulation 4 of the Emergency Powers Regulation, and by virtue and in exercise of all other powers enabling him in that behalf. The Curfew Order 1990. This order may be cited as the Curfew Order 1990. This order applies to the areas described in the schedule and such areas declared curfew areas for the purpose of the Emergency Powers Regulations 1990. Subject to the exemptions hereinafter provided, no person shall be out of doors in the areas and at the times specified in the schedules without a permit in writing from the Commissioner of Police or such other person or authority as may be directed by him for the purpose, and any such permission may be granted subject to such conditions as may be specified therein. Any person shall be exempted from the requirement to be in possession of a permit, who, on being required so to do by any police officer or member of the defense force in uniform, provides evidence that he is A, a police officer or member of the defense force who is on duty, or B, a person who is the holder of a permit as mentioned in paragraph 3. This is the first schedule. At any time in the Port of Spain area, bounded on the north by Park Street, on the west by Richmond Street, on the south by Independence Square, and on the east by Charlotte Street. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the first schedule.
So that was the acting Commissioner of Police, Leonard Taylor, giving the curfew order. No person shall be out of doors in the areas and at the specific times without a permit, right? And then again, the staff at Radio 610 contextualizing for us who are listening.
Meantime, we'd like to re-inform you here again that the state of emergency, the hours of curfew are now in effect. That means you are not to be outdoors at all.
Simple as that. Simple as that. Not to be outdoors at all. This type of information coming through. So let us now turn our attention to the Red House. And yes, there are recordings that played out on air out of the Red House. So this is Eden Shan, who is Minister in the Ministry of External Affairs and Foreign Trade inside the Red House.
This is Eden Shan speaking from the Parliament building. It has come to our attention here that certain people have asked for foreign assistance in our current domestic problems. I want to emphatically state that I personally, and this has always been my policy, is totally against foreign intervention in our domestic affairs. And I wish to also state that this is the unanimous feeling of everyone here in the Parliament chamber. We must strive to solve our problems on our own without foreign intervention. And I urge the people of Trinidad and Tobago to rally to this call that I am making, to resist with all the power at their command and all the vigor that they possess, resist any moves by anyone there to invite foreign military intervention into our domestic affairs. Thank you very much.
Interestingly enough, have you taken in what and how he spoke? And Mr. Shan was a hostage in the Red House, right? Speaking possibly under the gun, right? However, with the resolve for Trinidad and Tobago, yeah? Now, next, we have from on the inside of the Red House, we have an interview from Bilal Abdullah, who was one of the hostage takers, also the leader of the Red House assault. Right? This particular interview was conducted by the Caribbean News Agency out of Barbados. So the call was made and thus broadcast on air. So let us take a listen.
Sir, we are told that the Prime Minister and others are wired up right now with explosives.
No comment on that.
And your name, sir?
My name is Bilal Abdullah.
Yes. And your age?
37.
37. Would you say that the closeness of the Trinidad and Tobago troops is interfering with procedures at this time?
The defense force has been very disciplined and has caused no problem. Elements of the police, however, have deliberately attempted to thwart the resolution. They have jammed the Prime Minister when he was trying to speak with the Commissioner of Police and the Chief of Defense Staff, and they had to be spoken to repeatedly by the Commissioner of Police and Assistant Commissioner of Police to desist. And the Prime Minister eventually had to ask Chief of Defense Staff and Commissioner to send other units into the area to have them move from around the Red House. Here we have all the parliamentarians, we have Canon, the clan mediator, and these people were in the area jamming communications, occasionally sniping, mounting unauthorized attempts to enter the building and things like that. So they were given instructions that they should desist. But the defense force has been very disciplined in this matter.
Okay. Sir, you know, you told me just a while ago that the Prime Minister is in good spirits, in good health, and so on. As you know, the entire world right now is hoping that that is true.
I would be exposing him to some danger. Why to bring him to the phone? I don't think it would be wise. I don't think it would be a proper thing to do.
Yeah. So those are two recordings from inside the Red House. We just heard from Bilal Abdullah speaking about what is happening in and around the Red House at the time, talking about the police doing one thing, the army doing the other. And of course, it is all contextualized to push the particular agenda. And now let us move into the television house. And yes, again, we have recordings of persons speaking from the television house on air. And this is one of the examples from Jones P. Madeira.
The time is 30 seconds to 8 o'clock. We have Jones P. Madeira, the head of news of TTT, on the line. Jones?
Good morning, Dennis. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Well, as I indicated on the earlier television broadcast, the staff members here at Trinidad and Tobago Television are fine. We have been well treated. We have been given things to eat. We have been allowed to rest. Those of us who could have slept, we slept. We want to tell all the families that we are okay. We were missing a couple people during the course of the evening. They have now turned up. They are Mr. Lorelei and Mr. Lloyd Rochard. They are with us. And all the people who have been on duty at Trinidad and Tobago Television, they are safe. They are fine. They're in good spirits. I can indicate to you that they have been playing cards all evening and so on. And we have been very well treated. However, we have been just advised that some of the broadcasts that have been going out via channels 2 and 13 and I think 9 and 14 have been tampered with. We have been advised, we are not able to see it here, from here ourselves, but we have been advised that those transmissions have been disrupted. And we have been asked to indicate that disruption of the channels could endanger the lives of the people here at Trinidad and Tobago Television and the other people who are being held elsewhere at the Parliament. And I appeal on behalf of the staffers here at Trinidad and Tobago Television, and I've been asked to ask those in authority to please try to reinstate the signals so immediately so that lines of communication can be opened and also that we can have a very safe passage. Dennis, this is the appeal from us here at Trinidad and Tobago Television, and for the moment, we remain very fine.
Thank you very much, Jones.
Thank you, Dennis.
Bye-bye.
It's quite interesting, again, listening to Jones P. handling this particular call on air, very calm, collected, and giving information. You heard him speak about persons who have turned up, letting the families know that they are fine and not to worry, we will get through this. And of course, then giving the information that the Jamaat would have wanted out there. We've been asked to indicate that disruptions of the channels could endanger lives, etc. All right. So understanding how these men and women within the broadcast field would have done the work to keep us calm as a wider nation in handling this 6-day period. And remember, again, this was inside TTT. The next recording from inside TTT is from an interview done by Dennis McComey with the Imam, Yassin Abu Bakr, right? It is the entire call. And while doing the research, I met with Dennis McComey, who contextualized a lot of these recordings for me. And it was very difficult for him to listen to this because the first time he is hearing this was 34 years later. And he was wondering for those 34 years if he would have said the right things to the nation. Remember, he was living it at the time. Yeah. This particular call really was extremely emotional for him, and also fair warning for all in the meeting room, right?
You on the air.
Yes.
You can go ahead, sir.
Okay, a pleasant good morning to all the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, my beloved brothers and sisters. Once again, I would like to assure you that everything is okay. The government the ex-Prime Minister and his cabinet ministers are still under control. There, of course, has been a lot of treachery, and this country is witnessing the treachery and the broken words by those who am I on now?
Yes, you are.
Those who claim to represent people and have words. We've always had total and complete faith in the Creator of the heavens and the earth. As Muslims, we believe that We are all brothers and sisters, one to another, regardless of race, color, or creed, because we descended from one Adam and one Eve. We have accepted whatever is our fate, and we have accepted whatever is the fate of this country. We know that what we have done, the entire country, 99% of the entire country dreams about it or would like to do it themselves, but they lack the courage to do it. We know the sufferings of the poor masses and those who are oppressed. We see once more how the government is suppressing the people from expressing their free will by creating states of emergency and preventing nurses from going to work at the hospital so that the sick can be looked after. We would not do that. As the government of this country, we're saying that we have not declared any state of emergency, and we're telling the nurses to put their faith in God and to go to the hospitals and do their work. The police and the army does not have the moral authority nor the spiritual authority to prevent them from going, and they should just put their faith in Almighty God and go and do their jobs, go and look after the sick and the poor and the needy and those people who need them in the hospital. This totally disregards this oppressive form of state of emergency. This is an internal matter that concerns Trinidadians and Tobagonians, and all this question about asking for international help is an insult to the integrity of the people who are supposed to be looking after the protective services. We are ashamed of those people, those coward people who cannot determine their own household acts for themselves. We have not depended on anybody. We have depended only on the Creator. We know that the end of this matter will be resolved in the favor of the people. We know that this noble deed will be remembered long by our children and all those people who love freedom, who love justice. We know that we have promised that there will be election in 90 days, and we will keep that promise. We know that Almighty God will give us a chance to prove to the people that this country can be a better people, that we can discard all the race and the hatred and the bigotry. We can discard all the greed and selfishness, all the wickedness, all the injustices. We can disregard all the oppressive use of force. This week, when the Justice Eiffel Bachman made the statement concerning our matter and the occupation of our premises, he said that the excessive military force should stop immediately. And here we're witnessing an additional form of excessive military force to solve problems that can be solved by dialogue, by peaceful dialogue, by persuasion, by love rather than by confrontation. We have total and complete faith that this matter will be resolved in our favor, and our favor is the betterment of this country. We have total and complete faith that Almighty God is looking down at the people, everybody, and is judging the actions of everybody, and that this nation is before its God for judgment. That's all we would like to say at this point in time.
May I ask you a few questions?
Yes.
You're a Trinidadian and you're a citizen of
Born Trinidad. I'm not a citizen. I'm a born Trini. My neighbor Stringberry right here. My mother and father is born Trinidadians. Not only that, but I have served this country as a police officer for 9 years honorably. I have represented this country at the highest level of football, and I've played my part. If anybody wants to find out anything about Yassin Abu Bakr, go and ask the poor, destitute people anywhere in Trinidad and Tobago, who is Yassin Abu Bakr, and I will take my faith from them. Anybody at all.
In a society that is proud of its democratic system and its freedoms, do you think that this was the way to carry out change? This has not been a constitutional change, you will agree.
The country did not act by any democracy when they invaded and occupied our land without any law at all. And the justice in this country refused to give a judgment for 3 months. The judiciary in this country has refused to give a judgment. The judge has declined trying to give judgments in our matter for 3 months. Is that the democratic process? The democratic process in this country does not provide for the army to occupy land. That is not a democratic law. That is wrong, and it was never corrected for 3 months. Is that right?
Sir, can you please guarantee that no civilian will be further injured? Because we have had some injuries, and you had promised earlier on that...
Look here, it is the police and the army who are shooting people. On our premises, the police and the army was occupied that place for 3 months, and yet we never fired a single shot at the police or the army. Let the police and the army go on the TV and the radio and say if we fired one shot at them. Can you get any better conduct than that from us? From the time we occupied this place, we let off all the women and children. Is that true or not?
Yes, it is, sir.
Well, can you ask for better and more exemplified conduct for us?
Is there any way, sir, that we can diffuse the situation without any further harm to anyone?
Yes, sir. We are saying that we would like to have election in 90 days. We guarantee. We say that the people who were elected in the last government has been thrown out. Basdeo Pandey is the true elected representative. John Humphrey was the true elected representative. Ramnath was the true elected representative. Those people were thrown out. Clive Pantin was not the truly representative. The Sahadeo Basdeo was not the truly elected representative. Those people were not elected by the people. This is not democracy. We're saying if there is to be democracy, let us see a peaceful transition, and in 90 days we will have election free and fair, and free from fear, and let the people once more choose whoever they want to represent them. All we're saying is that give us this chance, and we will ensure that this is done. This is all we're saying. And we believe that the people of Trinidad and Tobago are with us. The entire population of Trinidad and Tobago wants new election.
Imam, on behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago who love a free and pleasant and safe society, we are asking you to please desist any further and don't in any way make any provisions that will not redound to the benefit and the productivity and to the safety of any more citizens of Trinidad and Tobago.
We are not. It is the police and the army that are firing on unarmed people. The people are watching at this nation, my dear brother. The people are watching. We have never harmed the people. Go and ask the old people if they love us. Let the old people come on the television and say they don't love Abu Bakr. You will be ashamed because they all love us.
I'm afraid, sir, we have absolutely no kind of control on that situation, and I want you to know it. But thank you for talking to us.
Yes, thank you very much, and may God bless you and bless the nation. This decision will be made by God, and we submit to whatever decision the Almighty Creator makes. We submit to our decision. From Allah we came, and to Allah is our eventual return.
So that was Imam Yassin Abu Bakr live on air with Dennis Mukomi. And after this interview, the army was very, very upset with Radio 610 for allowing the leader of the attempted coup to have a space to speak like this to the people. They were very, very upset about it and almost took them off air. However, they continued to broadcast right through until Emancipation Day, which was the 1st of August. And this is when the hostages were released. Now, Dennis, Mr. Mukomi, while walking through these recordings with me, also contextualized that when he picked up the phone for this particular call and he heard the Imam's voice and was like, "You really calling me out of TTT?" And they decided, okay, let's put him on air and listen to what he has to say. So it's quite interesting where that is concerned. Now, yes, other things were happening around Port of Spain and in the environs. So one such example, in terms of giving the information, we move into reports of looting.
There are growing reports of looting on the outskirts of Port of Spain, the latest from the Aranjuez Plaza, where NBS News understands gangs are raiding the shops and making off with thousands and thousands of dollars worth of goods. Looting has also been reported in Diego Martin, Laventil, East Dry River, Barataria, San Juan and the Val Park shopping centres in Val Seine. Reports reaching NBS Radio indicate that some of the gangs of looters comprise young people moving in large groups. We have received from members of the public appeals to all these people, especially the youth, to stop these activities. The public has also been calling NBS Radio 610 to appeal to the protective services to offer their assistance.
All right, so many of those things happening in and around this space. So looking at the various developments now, again, playing out on air, and this is what we would have heard. We move now into
Canon Clark. Prime Minister Robinson and the other
listen keenly.
In good spirits, although it has now confirmed that Prime Minister Robinson and Minister Selwyn Richardson was slightly injured on Friday. Representative Leo Devines, who was also injured on Friday, has been warded at the Port of Spain General Hospital. Following a meeting of ministers and other officials this morning, the government has given instructions that Piarco International Airport be reopened for daylight flights. Measures have been put in place to ensure that public utilities continue to function. The Defense Force and Protective Services remain well in control of the security situation, and there have been no reports of breaches of the curfew regulations. The curfew remains in effect at this time in the area of the Red House and the Television House. In other parts of the country, you may go about your normal business, but are reminded that the dusk to dawn curfew remains in effect throughout the country. Once again, we wish to appeal to you to remain calm and be assured that we will keep you abreast of developments as they occur. Thank you very much.
So this announcement, this broadcast, he said it is now confirmed that Prime Minister Robinson and Minister Richardson were slightly injured on Friday. What we know now is that they were shot. And we also have information about Minister Leo Devines being released from the Red House and then to the hospital. However, he died later on. So may his soul rest in peace. These are some of the examples coming out of the Coup tapes that speak to the developments in and around the 6-day period, right? And this particular one, quite interesting again, from Dennis McComey, speaking to the Muslimin and the armed forces. All right, let's take a listen.
This is a special announcement for all the people who are gathered at TTT and Muslimin members who are monitoring NBS Radio 610 and Radio 100 FM stereo. His Grace Archbishop Anthony Panton and Bishop Abdullah are on their way to Television House to complete negotiations. We have been asked to relay this message and to advise that full cooperation of the armed forces and the Muslimin is needed for the successful completion of this operation. We ask that the police follow their official orders and refrain from shooting and move away from the building. Your cooperation is vital. I repeat this message.
So he goes on to repeat the message again, but let us really sit with this. The radio being used as this communication tool to reach all interested parties in the negotiation process. All right. So as we know, the negotiation did happen. There's a level of amnesty. And on the 5th day, Prime Minister A.N.R. Robinson was escorted out. Now, in the research, in my readings, and in the various interviews that I would have conducted, there is contention in terms of why the Prime Minister, A.N.R. Robinson, then Prime Minister, was released. Was it for failing help, or was it to speed up the negotiations? This particular question has not been answered as yet. Day 5, and then we move into the final day, day 6, we have the surrender. What is also very interesting in terms of the use of the radio to then communicate the information, it is this particular message.
All hostages held by the Jamaat al-Muslimin in the six-day crisis, which has gripped the country, have now been freed. A short while ago, the operation at the Parliament building was completed, with all hostages, including cabinet members, being freed. Their abductors were led away under heavy guard. Earlier this afternoon, the hostages at Trinidad and Tobago Television were set free and taken to Camp Ogden, where medical treatment awaited them. The hostage takers at TTT were escorted under heavy guard to Chaguaramas.
So that broadcast by Tony Lee contextualizing the end to the 6-day siege. However, continuing along, the curfew still was in effect, of course, eventually and gradually lifted. And we have reports maybe of some of you all in coup parties and so on, right? But this is what happened. A very small portion of what happened over the 6-day period on air, live on air. And I think just to end this particular session here, a message from the then Prime Minister, A.N.R. Robinson, and he gave this interview maybe about a week later.
Above all, I would like to say how relieved I am to be with the population again, with all of you who have been through such a grievous period. I know that it has been the most trying period within living memory. I know the grief and the pain that the population has gone through. And even though we who were in the Red House have been subjected to such pain ourselves, I want to assure you that uppermost in my own mind was the state of the country and the fate of the country, and that all that I sought to do, or the manner in which I thought, bore the welfare of the population as foremost.
So he had the welfare and the state of the country foremost in front of his mind while being held captive at the Red House. So, my friends, this would bring us to the end of this very short look into the coup tapes. And I am open for your questions. And thank you very much for allowing me to spend this time with you as we commemorate the 35th anniversary of the 1990 attempted coup. It was my pleasure to be here and to share this 20-year, almost 20-year passion project with you all. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Joseph, for your contribution this afternoon. Wow, what an enlightening presentation, a lot of which I did not know because I might be a few years younger than you, and now I know your age. Now I know you're at least 35.
That's it, right there.
So let me read some of the comments from during the presentation, and I do also want to share that I think, Joseph, you did say that you wanted us to open up the floor for anyone who wanted to share their experience. So
Yes.
I'm going to
We have
first,
any questions first?
I'm seeing a lot of congratulations in the chat. I'm seeing Colleen Holder from Parliament. Thank you very much, Colleen, for joining us this afternoon. Has said that Knox Street at the Red House will be open this Saturday and Sunday from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. for the public to lay wreaths, and the exhibition on the attempted coup at the Rotunda Gallery at the Red House will also be open to the public Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So thank you very much, Colleen, for sharing that, and everyone, please do be advised that you can come by and visit.
Yes.
And she did also share the names of those who were held hostage at the Red House and at TTT. and those who were held at Radio Trinidad for 6 days have all been but forgotten. Arthur Green, Cheryl Yearwood, Darwin Watson, Edison Carr, Emmett Hennessy, who was shot, Harold Thompson, McDonald Holder, Michael London, Patrick Goodage, Pius Mason, and Sukram Ali and Steve Sutherland. So we remember them this afternoon.
Yes,
Carl
indeed.
says, good evening. I'm very grateful for this series and for the information being shared. My uncle was a soldier that was involved in the coup personally. He even made a comic about it recently, and hopefully you can go back and click the link so you can see the images. Teresa Nablet Skinner says, my husband was one of the 2 soldiers who was pictured wheeling A&R Robinson out of the Red House. Wow. Wow.
Yes.
Celeste Chariandi, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, says, glad that this presentation will be available on YouTube. So many youngsters are unaware and unable to grasp what it was like for those of us who lived through those days and also tune into the radio for information. Social media gives instantaneous information, but also misinformation and disinformation. Alicia Reyes says, I'm grateful to your mother for the taping of this important space in our history. Blessings flow. Thank you very much, Alicia. And thank you very much, Mama Bertrand.
Charmaine Bertrand, yes.
Mama Charmaine Bertrand.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Megan Ali, I'm just going to run through a few more. Megan Ali, I vaguely remember that curfew and the coup as a child, just a few weeks before I turned 4. It was a time when I learned to be wary of being outside too late. Interesting to look back at how we had to operate as a society and how far we have come from those days. Thank you very much, Megan. Ashley Morris says this is amazing. Okay, and a few more. Thank you so much for this session. Annette Cambridge says, congratulations, Mr. Bertrand. Thank you to both you and your mother. Excellent work. Colleen Holler, thank you so much for this session. Susan Hines Morgan, thank you. Everybody is thanking you and congratulating you. Fatima Waju has a question for you, Joseph.
Yes.
Fatima, please correct me if I hope I'm not mispronouncing your name. Will the Coup Tapes project be available as a digital archive?
Nicely. Excellent question. So I've put together a lot of the recordings in an audio documentary, right, called The Lost Tapes 1990 Attempted Coup audio documentary, right? Hopefully, Ty, you could just drop it in the chat, right? So there's much more that you can avail yourself of through the audio documentary. So to answer your question, yes, it is there. And Ty, I also saw in the chat, Miss Bonnie Bishop asked about, is it possible to have inserted times or dates when the broadcasts were done during the 6-day attempted coup? Miss Bishop, thank you very much for the question. And it is extremely difficult to put date and time next to the recordings themselves unless the presenters would have said good morning or it is 6 p.m. or anything like that. I was able to figure out dates and times based on what we know happened and the developments that happened, right? So I was able to then map those. For example, the curfew order, we know exactly when that was. The proclamation of the state of emergency, things like that, we would know exactly. But depending on if the presenters would have then time stamped, I guess, their broadcast, then it would have been difficult to get the date and time. But thank you very much for the question. But it is possible in listening and in contextualizing some of the recordings. So thank you for that question.
Great question. Thank you very much for your answer, Joseph Bertrand. Kimberly Hunt, I love hearing stories from my dad, who is a police officer, about his time during the coup. Really glad this will be on YouTube so he can view it when he gets a chance. Thank you very much, Kimberly, and I hope your father enjoys it very much.
Indeed, indeed. And I would love to hear more just to get more information, to bring a lot of these things together, because again, this is a watershed moment that is within living memory.
Yeah.
Right? And those who may have resided in Port of Spain would have one experience to those who may have been in Tobago, those who may have been down south or up in the east, things like that. So it would be wonderful to hear more, of course, respectfully. So yeah, thank you very much for that opportunity to put that in. And I see the audio documentary is in the chat, so y'all can check it out. It's about 1 hour and 22 minutes, contextualizing a lot of what we went through, but much more, much more.
Yeah, I'm seeing a comment here from Karine Nathaniel de Caires. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. This is a very good undertaking. I migrated 3 weeks before the attempted coup, and prior to my departure, I worked the front desk at the library on the corner of Knox and Pembroke Street. To be very far away and hearing BBC News talk about the smoke billowing from downtown Port of Spain was paw-raising. My mother talked about how her blood ran cold to think that if it had just happened a month before, I would have been right there working the 10 to 6 shift at the library as I did on most Fridays. I appreciate hearing these recordings for the first time and feeling the tensions, albeit inherited memory for me. Thank you very much for your contribution, Karine. And I do want to say that, Joseph, are you, people may turn on their mics at this time and give a short 2-minute contribution if you'd like to.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Do we have enough time for that, do you think?
I think we can take about 3 or 4. But I'll read the next comments in the meantime in case anyone gathers the courage. I unfortunately don't have any personal story of my own to tell, but I do want to add that when I heard the contribution between Dennis McCormy and the Imam Yassin Abu Bakr, it did certainly evoke a lot of emotions out of me, and I teared up at a point in time because I was just imagining how terrifying it must have been to be in Mr. McCormy's shoes.
Correct.
Wow. Wow.
34 years later, when I played it for him the first time, it was extremely emotional for him. And we almost couldn't get through the entire recording. He had to catch himself and then get back into it again. So, because again, he lived it, he had no idea if he would have said the right things to the nation. So I find that to be extremely powerful as well. And one more little tidbit, Jared Lampau, you would have heard him throughout the presentation. Fresh out of UE with his communications degree.
Wow.
His posting at Radio 610, 2 weeks. It's amazing to understand what they would have done for the nation. Yeah.
And we must commend them and all of the people who made these messages to the public. I especially remember the contribution from Archbishop Panton. It calmed me down a little bit.
Yeah.
It definitely he had the right words for the situation. Alicia Reyes says, I don't have a question. I'm an artist. I was going to take part in sending my art pieces to the Rotunda Gallery for the Rotunda Art Gallery for the Echo of 1834 and the Coup exhibition. I regret not doing a piece on the coup after listening to this. Thais says, excellent presentation. Thank you very much for joining us, Thais. Boss, I'm not sure if that's the name. I drove into town on the Saturday morning. Port of Spain looked like Juve morning with a black fog machine. Wow.
Powerful imagery. Powerful.
We have some of those photographs. I've seen some of those photographs. And I imagine you would have as well. Wow. Celeste Chariandi. Most persons in the military that I know do not like to talk about it. These recordings form a mechanism for documenting some of the information without having to have those in the front line relive it by speaking about it. Joseph, how has your experience been? Have you had an opportunity to speak with people who were on the front line?
Oh, yes, and I've had an opportunity to speak with many persons on various topics and in various spaces within the attempted coup. And depending on their mood at the time, some people have not overcome or have not moved away from the feelings that they would have had at the time. Some find it very difficult, and others just want a space to speak, right? Those who would have been involved directly, and those who may have been tangentially involved towards the sides, or maybe as onlookers who are not in who were not in Port of Spain. I saw a reference to Tobago from Dr. Mohammed, right? And he was asking for persons in the group, in the call, to just talk about the experience in Tobago. But interestingly, we have recordings of persons in Tobago and talking about what is happening in Tobago. And there's a level of calm in Tobago being removed from the epicenter, however, extremely concerned. Yeah. So that is also part of the Coup tapes. I see Miss Reyes has her hand up.
Yeah, please go ahead and unmute Ms. Reyes.
Greetings, everyone. You hear me? You hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yes. Well, with the last question that she posed to you there and talked about, it brought to my attention this wonderful thing that you, I'm sure it'll be great to do, is a compilation of stories from, all the people that you will have been there at that time. That would be wonderful for us to hear in the future. So I want to find out if you're already started doing anything concerning that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. And yes, I have started that with the permission of the particular individuals to document their experience. And for those also, there's a lot of work already out there representing and representing, their experiences. So I have interviews with Jared Lampa, with Sharon Pitt, with Dennis McComey, where we sat and we spoke about it, have them recorded, and eventually working on another project under the Coup Tapes banner. So thank you very much for the question.
Thank you very much, Ms. Reyes. And Joseph, just allow me a few moments to read a few more of these comments, and then I think we'll look to wrap up in a few. Here, Foss, my name is Robin Foster, aka Foss. Thank you so much for joining us, Foss, and thank you for your contribution. Kira John, this was an absolutely amazing initiative. I was not born at the time of the coup, so this snapshot into what it would have been like at that time provided an amazing insight for me. I have always found the coup to be fascinating. To hear the words from the leaders and those directly involved is very moving. Thank you very much for this archive. Great anthropological and historical work by the Trust and Mr. Bertrand. And let me correct you, Kira, this is a Joseph Bertrand project, and we are providing him a platform to present it.
Miss John really hit the nail on the head there, because understanding that there was no Facebook, no Instagram, no social media. There's also reports on some of the recordings talking about don't use the phone too much. Telco was the company at the time, not TSTT or Digicel, Telco. Don't call them because it's jamming the lines, so that they aren't able to communicate in order to bring resolution. So to really be listening to the radio for information is quite interesting. And thank you very much, Kara John, for the comments.
I have another comment here from Debbie Lee Matthews. I founded an undertaking called the 1990 Project, where we collect first-hand stories from members of the public about their experiences during this time. Congratulations, Ms. Matthews. Wow. People have been mostly very reluctant to share, but those who have so far can still feel the fear, shock, feelings of trepidation as if it happened yesterday. Mr. Bertrand, thank you for your work.
Most welcome. And yes, I too concur with Miss Debbie Lee Matthews's comments. Persons who I have interviewed as well still feel that fear, feel that shock. And yeah.
Pauline Phillip did mention in the chat that the police have also done a documentary about the coup experience. I'm not too sure. Do you know where they can access it, Joseph?
I think there is a showing of the audio of the film, sorry. This is Code 727. Code 727 is the name of it. And you can check the page for the museum, the police museum,
Okay.
and you may be able to get the information there
Perfect.
in terms of
Perfect.
when it would be shown. But very moving documentary, extremely moving documentary.
Colleen Holder from Parliament. One of the female Parliament staff members recalls hiding in a toilet on the Friday night and escaped under gunfire at 6 a.m. on the Saturday morning. Wow.
Ms. Holder, all of these stories we would need to capture, so let's make something happen. Thank you so much.
Let us indeed make something happen. I believe that Graham may have a contact for Ms. Holder, so we can probably chat offline. Gaynell, hold it. Thank you, Mr. Bertrand. I too thought it was a best village play while I was visiting my family in the hospital.
Yes.
Imagine trying to get to Aruka with a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. I can't even do that on a good day. Luckily, a taxi driver dropped us out to Arima, taking up about 8 persons in his car. Then in Arima, it was again prayers and luck and that another car got us home by my parents' house. By 6, everyone was home, even one sibling who lived elsewhere. Then it was out to the neighborhood shop to buy candles, bread, sausage, cheese, with everyone putting up to get supplies. The coup of 1970 was a bit of a rehearsal for 1990. Wow.
Yep. One quick thing, because I'm mindful of the time. That Best Village play, almost everybody I speak to thought it was a play. And just to bring everybody back into a context, there was something called Play of the Month that happened before. So they would show a play and Play of the Month. And when I then bring that to them, they're like, oh, okay, that is why everyone has that idea that they thought it was a play up until they saw guns passing behind Jones P and so on, and Dominic Kalipasad. So that is what was happening there. Prior, there was a Play of the Month that was shown on TV, on TTT.
My goodness. So maybe, Joseph, we have time for one more and then we can wrap
All
up.
right.
Okay, I'm going to read this comment from Miss Bonnie Bishop. As my sons and I were at the HCS for the Shell Cup final. After the game, I went north on Marabou Road, only to realize that the road was blocked and that I had turned into ground zero of the takeover of TTT. Fortunately, though, we were able to return home to Belmont safely.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much for your contribution, Ms. Bishop.
Ms. Bishop, there is also recordings of the I guess broadcast talking about the members of the football team. They're safe and they're here with us. They're going through it with us. So that is also captured on air as well, talking about the Shell Caribbean Cup. I believe it was Trinidad versus Jamaica at that time. I could be wrong, but I think it's Trinidad, Jamaica. Yeah.
Joseph, just give me the opportunity to read one more that I'm seeing from Miss Karen Batu. My father, Edward Batu, who managed Clark and Batu Limited, was called to collect the bodies of those who had died during the coup. He and his staff were some of the few who were allowed into the Red House during and immediately following the siege. Seeing the bodies in the morgue with gunshot wounds is a sight that I will never forget. May they all rest in peace.
Indeed. May
they all
rest in peace. Indeed. Thank you very much for that, Miss Karen Batu. I think we also need to have a conversation. So,
Miss Karen Batu, are you a member of the National Trust? And if you're not, please feel free to reach out to us at info@nationaltrust.tt, or I will put Joseph's email in the chat.
Please. Oh, she is a member. She's a member.
Of course, Miss Batu is a member. How would I not? Yeah.
So everybody, please follow Miss Batu, join the National Trust, those who are not members of the trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Joseph, I think this brings us to the end of the Toot Bagay lecture on the Coup Tapes project.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your incredible presentation. I'm feeling very emotional right now. I cannot lie. And I think everyone else is moved, but I hope that everyone had an opportunity this evening to air out a little bit of our joint trauma. And I encourage you to all visit Knox Street, as Miss Holder from Parliament would have said, to lay your wreaths, to have a moment of remembrance for those whose lives were lost, and to also please participate in viewing or listening to the audio documentary which Joseph has and his dear mother, Miss Charmaine Bertrand, have spent so long working and researching. And of course, make sure that you are all members of the National Trust, because we provide platforms for stories like these, for stories of Trinidad and Tobago's national heritage, our history, to thrive. So thank you all very much for joining us. Thank you very much, Joseph, for this amazing, enlightening, emotional session. And I'm going to give you back your chair for the next lecture, okay?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well done. Well done. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for participating, for sharing your stories with us all. And just to echo Ty's sentiment, please be part of the movement that is the National Trust in safeguarding our heritage. So thank you very much, Ty.
Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, wait, I forgot. Okay, so now it's time for the refreshment segment of the evening. So here's where you can get your refreshments. You close your machine, head down the corridor, open the fridge, and there the refreshments
Yeah,
are.
they're the refreshments. We
This is
provide.
as if it doesn't work so well when I do it. I need to give you back your chair. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. I look forward to seeing you all at the next one. Have a great evening and do enjoy the rest of your evening and stay safe.